Hello, everybody. Welcome to the History Made Awesome podcast, episode 9. It is currently 11:10, 2017. It's a little bit early in the morning. Today, we're doing a Friday kind of podcast because we had a lot of stuff going on during the week. But we're going to get you guys this podcast hopefully on Sunday, depending on how long it takes for it to upload onto the YouTubes and the interwebs. We are back again with Ben. Ben, how is your life going right now?
It's going okay. I had a midterm this last week, an actual midterm since it's the middle of the term. That felt fine. Everyone else was really worried, so I don't know. Like, everyone else thought it went really bad. And then I had an interview on Monday. It went, yeah. I think I'm going to look for someone else.
You didn't like the guy? Or like...
It's more like, so usually, the professor, there's someone who's in charge of the whole lab.
Yeah.
But then there's usually like there's usually graduate students and postdocs who are actually running the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them really liked me,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought I'd be great fit. But he was like, yeah, it's a process, so I have to put out an ad so that we can get more people, like more options. I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, you'd probably find out by next year. I was like, what?
Next
He's
year?
like, yeah, like he said after the holidays. So he meant
okay.
next year as in
Like,
January.
Okay.
I know, that's what I thought too. I was like, what the hell do you mean next year? It's too long. Even then though, January is a pretty long time.
Yeah.
Especially if I was just like, oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll just, wait. And just let it happen. I'm going to keep looking around.
Yeah, at least you already have that guy there, so like if you can kind of look to see what
Exactly.
else, and then if you don't find anything, you have that guy to hopefully come back to, and those postdoc students and the grad students like you, so I mean that can also help in getting you that position as well. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's pretty cool. For myself, it's been pretty chill. Let's see, did I have something due on Monday? I had a little it's like an annotated bibliography. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically you put all your sources and you have them cited, and you do like a quick like what's it called? Like a quick review what the source is about and what the argument is and like what is it made for and like other types of analysis on the document itself. Um, so that funny for that weekend, I feel like I've been like trying to fight with myself and not being lazy and like trying to put in work. So it's like that's where my stress comes from is not actually like the work itself. It's more like trying to stay on task and trying to get after as much as possible. Especially this is like as the quarter kind of goes on and moves into like holiday weekend or the holidays, it gets a lot more difficult to deal with those things. So yeah. So let's see. Anything else for me? No. We're gonna be picking up again. I got a paper due on next week on Thursday. Anthropology paper, so that should be interesting. And yeah, just moving closer to the holidays and should be awesome. So that's kind of going.
You have any plans for the long weekend?
The long weekend. Today or later today, I'm probably gonna watch Space Odyssey 2001 and figure out what the hell the ending was. Cause all I remember from the ending is that like they spoiler alert, sorry, but
I think it's okay.
okay. Because what I remember from the ending is like, so they're attacking Hell, right? And the one Austin dude who's left, I think it's one dude, right? I don't remember.
Yeah.
He like moves into like some weird black hole thing, and like there's a bunch of like colors, and then like they end up like in a room or something like that. I have no idea how they got there. I watched the movie when I was like maybe 13, 12.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'm getting there's a bad robot, like he wants to kill people, like that makes sense, and then that happens, and it's just like
Bad robots. Bad Hal.
bad Hal. And yeah, that happens. I'm like, what the fuck happened? So I was like, tell my dad, we gotta watch it over again, and like I gotta decipher this. I gotta decipher this ending.
Well, if I recall, I've never actually seen it, but I've seen that scene enough, just in all the references and things. So he goes into a black hole or something, travels through hyperspace with weird flashing colors, and then he sees himself die, and then there's like a baby version of him floating in a bubble. That's what happens. So I don't know how much you're gonna be able to really interpret it just watching it again. I think that's something you have to like read and be like, okay, what drugs was he on?
Yes.
Maybe that'll help me understand.
Well, hopefully I can judge from context and just kind of see where how it gets to that point. And maybe that might infer my interpretation of the scene itself, or I can just go on Google and just check it out or whatever. Yeah. So that's my plan, and then for the weekend, I'm just gonna chill, do homework, and yeah, it's pretty much the life you can say,
School life.
the school life. So that's kind of what's been going on with us. So let's get into the news. The news. So I guess we'll start off with a little funnier scene, and it kind of connects to what's kind of going on now. Um, so this was on November 9th. I don't know when this happened, but essentially what happened is that an Egyptian bridegroom was seriously injured after he was hit by shotgun pellets fired by guests celebrating his wedding. And he wasn't just injured. No, he was shot in the testicles, literally. Um, so essentially, what happened is, I guess they're having a celebration. I don't know if it was a bachelor celebration or not. I think
I
it
think it was
was.
the wedding, wasn't it?
Uh, uh trying to look right
Oh no,
now.
last night's. Okay, you're right. So it's
Yeah,
the.
it's the bachelor
Okay.
party.
Yep.
And so one of his, I guess his friend or someone who was celebrating with him, decided to fire a shotgun in the air, and yeah, it hit the dude. Um, and let's see. Yep. Let's see what else is in. So then, what the result of this would be is that many on social media call for the tradition of firing gunshots in public celebrations to be banned. Um, yeah,
Probably a good idea.
it's like,
I think once we learned basic physics, like a few hundred years ago, we probably should have started banning launching random projectiles into the air.
yeah, it was fun. It was funny. It kind of connects to I was talking to I have a family friend who works at the Davis Library, UC Davis
Hmm.
Library, and he was telling me that when he went back to Nicaragua, because he goes back and
Hmm.
forth a lot, that I guess it was like around Christmas or something like that. Like he and his brother were kind of staying outside of the town, like maybe a couple miles or whatever,
Hmm.
a good distance. And what happened on Christmas is that everyone in the city decided to pull out their like guns and not just like pistols, like legit assault rifles, and just start firing firing into the air. Like
Yeah.
it was so like loud that like my his brother and him were trying to converse with each other, and they're like in the same room, and like they couldn't even hear each other. They had to like yell to even try to speak to each other. It was like super
Dang.
super loud, and it's like, yeah, like don't you guys know gravity? Like bullets come down. It was just like, and I guess like a couple of days, like next day, like there's like news reports of people getting injured or whatever. Like, really,
Yeah. I'd say
really,
that's happened a couple times in America too. I think the most recent one that I saw um, was because a child got hit. It was like, oh yeah, they were celebrating and shooting a pistol in the air, and it hit a house because they're idiots and they're in the middle of a city firing weapons into the air, and it like hit a child. I don't think the child died, but it was like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe that's a bad idea. Seems like
yeah.
that's kind of a thing in Texas, a little bit,
Mm,
not a lot, but a little bit.
hmm. Yeah, and
It's yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
yes.
People are not smart. The only people who are smart are people who decide to fire at the hurricane. I agree with those people.
Yes.
I support them.
As long as they looked at the diagram and didn't shoot themselves,
And kind of moving on to a little bit more sober news since we're already on like this guns and things of those nature. I guess we can kind of go into the Texas massacre that happened. I think it was like on Monday or Tuesday. I forget which day it was on. It was earlier this week though. Um,
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people already know what's going on with this. We have 26 people dead, 20 injured. The guy who was named was Patrick Kelly. He was in the U.S. Air Force for a little bit, and then he was banned for he was dishonorably discharged for domestic abuse against his wife and stepson, I guess. Um, and then supposedly he should have been banned to own firearms. And I don't know if he was banned or not. But he found a way to get a bunch of weapons, including a semi-automatic rifle, and a bunch of other weapons as well. And I was reading the kind of like the description of the event itself, kind of like the moment by moment. It's just like, oh Jesus, crazy man, just like execution style, shit like that. Um, and literally like a couple weeks after Las Vegas. and both in states where they have very lenient gun laws as well. And it's not surprising that they have the most deaths in terms of a mass shooting. Um, so there's a couple people to blame. You have the military. Let's see,
Air Force.
the Air Force who didn't let everyone know that this guy's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was
Um,
a clerk error. It
yeah,
wasn't even like, oh, negligence. It was like, oh, just complete incompetence. Great.
yep, and yeah, and Trump says that of course, he rejects the strict gun check, saying that if the it's funny. I think he said something in the nature of that if there was stricter gun laws, then the guys who chased after the dude would not have been able to defend themselves. But in the
Hmm.
end, you're like, well, the guy who
Who
committed the
bought the
actual,
gun legally? Maybe he shouldn't have been able to get it.
yeah, it's just like shaking your head, just like
Yeah.
what the fuck. And I was kind of looking at kind of like why these things are getting more deadly according to the BBC. I'll be putting all these articles online as I usually do.
Hmm.
Supposedly they track a number of things. Of course, I guess there was a gun what's it called? They hit banned automatic rifles in 1994 in the 90s. And then I guess it
Hmm.
was lifted in 2004, so that's one reason why. So you have weapons who can now commit more murders essentially at a faster rate. You also have another crazy one. I was looking at it was that out murderers try to outdo each other. Like I guess the news
Yeah.
media like puts out like everything about the murder. Like this is what he is. This is what he was doing or whatever. And I guess a lot of people kind of gravitate to that and actually try to outdo themselves. They also try to choose their where they kind of do these massacres more closely. Like they choose very large groups to where they don't have to like actually aim and kill people. They can just kind of fire into a mass of people and then
Hmm.
do it that way. Um, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Um, trying to see what else there is anything about that. But do you have anything else to share on that? I mean,
I mean, so as far as getting better, I mean, if you think about it, it's like the more times it happens, and then you find out how they were stopped, that just gives you more information. That just gives the next person more information who wants to do it next. It's like, oh, they were being tracked because of the angle of where they were. Well, what if I just moved?
hmm
Or oh, they were hunted down by two people. Well, what if I set traps? Or what if I do it from an angle? Or what if I hide?
hmm
It just gives people more information for the next time. So putting out all of the details and things, it doesn't help anyone. I mean, they just do it for views. People want to know, obviously, but maybe they shouldn't know.
Yeah, and also research has found that I guess it was experts at the Guilford Law Center to prevent gun violence saw that
Hmm.
states with stricter gun control tended to see less gun violence.
Hmm.
Um, it's crazy. They even talked about how in Georgia there's a law that's been passed that allowed for people to carry weapons in school classrooms and nightclubs.
Hmm.
Oh, Jesus. It's like I think what this showed is that like there's always been that argument where like if the bystanders had a gun they can prevent it. It's just like
But
no, because
realistically,
yeah, like you can't plan for that shit to happen. Like you're sitting in a movie theater, you're sitting like in church, like are you gonna be prepared to fight for your life at that moment?
I actually saw a news article that said the pastor of that church is going to start carrying a gun on him during service.
Well,
So,
now, yeah,
yeah, now.
duh. Were you doing it before? No. It's like silly, absolutely silly for people to think like this. And before I was like kind of like on the fence of this, like this problem where it's just like, yeah, I can see it kind of happening, but seeing like a couple instances where just like that doesn't occur, it's like that doesn't make sense anymore. Like it literally does not. Um, but yeah, it's kind of crazy to kind of we're back in this mood and we're not even thinking about it seriously, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like a week ago, or was this last week? Sorry, my time's a little weird because of school. Let's say it was about a week ago when the person crashed into the crowd in New York
Yeah.
with the car. It was like everyone's in an uproar. All the Republicans are like, "Oh my God, we need to start banning more countries. We need to do this. We need to do that." Like the first thing that Trump came out, it was like, oh, we need to have stricter immigration thing. It was like, well, he didn't get in the normal way, so I don't know how that matters.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now there's a giant mass shooting, 10 times as many people die, but it was caused by a gun. So they go, oh, no, 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 we shouldn't talk about it right now. We should just thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. We'll talk about it when the time is right.
Exactly.
When my person gets killed, then we can talk about it.
Yeah. And then also on this note, I guess the reason for this attack was because of a domestic what they call a row. He had a row with his mother-in-law. And
A
from what I
fight.
yeah, from what I get, so basically he attacked the church because I guess they went to the church. Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah, it was the mother-in-law usually attends, or that's the church that she attends. She wasn't there, but that's the church she usually attends.
Why would you that doesn't make any like I can see that yeah like as a reason, but like in terms of the person doing it, was it because of mental illness and then also part of that as well? Or
Maybe. I mean, yeah.
because it doesn't make no sense because you know where your mother-in-law lives. Like if you were willing to die, like you can just go to her house and just kill everybody there. Now it's still a shitty thing. Don't get me wrong. Like it's still shitty, but like in terms of, like a motive for like committing a mass murder is to for that over something as that. You know what I'm saying? It seems kind of like weird, or maybe the world is just weird and I just can't understand it sometimes, which is probably the
It's
latter.
definitely the yeah, that part's definitely true. I don't know, motivations of people can be motivated to do very stupid things very quickly.
Mhm.
Um, I think this is a little too premeditated, but that's why we have like a crime of passion, where it's literally like they just got so angry or so emotional that they went and killed someone. It's like, well, it was a crime of passion, it wasn't premeditated, and it has slightly less intense consequences because it's like, yeah, people just do really stupid things sometimes.
Mhm.
I mean, looking at the picture of this guy, he doesn't look like he's too together. Maybe his life was just really shitty and he didn't care about the consequences. It doesn't even have to be a mental illness. It could just be complete apathy.
Yeah, it's pretty. It was pretty crazy. Kind of like I was like, I think again I was because I was always on the news and I always have the BBC notifications coming up, and I think it was on Sunday. I think this happened on Sunday. Yeah, it happened on Sunday at like 10 at local time. Because remember I was like just doing homework and struggling with first world problems, and
Hmm.
like I called. I was like, oh my god, again. That was my first thing, and then like, of course I looked and like wow, it's just these things are getting out of hand. And then they make that like argument where like most gun violence occurs like hold on, just something whatever.
Gun-free areas or something.
No, sorry, I was looking at an email from my first sent. I was like, oh no,
Oh.
what is it? Tell me. Um oh yeah, they always say like yeah, like okay, we deal with the automatic gun laws, right? Like no semi-automatic rifles. I mean, gun violence is still gonna occur. I mean, yeah, probably.
Well,
But
yeah. I mean, okay. So I always found that the argument of like, if you ban guns, only bad people will have guns. It's like, well, if you ban murder, only bad people will murder.
mhm.
No shit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Guess what? Laws aren't gonna be perfect.
Mhm.
That they never will be. Just because you make something illegal doesn't mean everyone's going to listen to it,
Mhm.
but you still make the laws to prevent the thing or to punish the thing.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
And I think on that note,
Crazy.
I think the reason why, especially like in certain areas like Chicago, I think is pretty terrible in terms of gun violence. Um,
Mhm.
I think that is also like another issue. I think that's also poverty as well. Because I mean,
Yeah.
like that's crime. That's all that things that allows for that to happen. And not saying there's this perfect way to like end crime because I don't think any nation in the world has done that. Especially like in a large nation like us, it's kind of really difficult to do that. But I mean, there's ways to kind of
Mhm.
alleviate it. At this current moment, I can't really say what it is because no one really has really figured it out. And for myself, I've always been kind of thinking about it, and I think I'm going to start doing now is kind of start thinking about it a little bit more and try to develop some type of, I guess, cohesive argument, for
Mhm.
it. But I think that's more of not really a guns violence law. I mean, problem. I think that's more of like a. I mean, you just saw the laws where people can't own firearms, like automatic rifles and things like that, or certain people shouldn't have firearms. But I think if you correct that issue, I think that you'll start seeing less gun violence in those areas as well. But of course, like you said, like these laws are not gonna be perfect. People are still gonna die from firearms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So and plus, yeah, that's kind of all I got on that
Yeah,
one.
I don't know. I feel like, so in order to drive a car,
Yes. Oh
no,
yeah.
that's terrible. Because because I don't know, we have pretty shitty training honestly in America.
But then
Let's
again,
say this.
like,
I feel like there should be much more. So there is like a thing. You have to get licensed to own a
yeah,
gun,
yeah.
but it's not a difficult process.
Mhm.
Nor is getting a car license in America. But I feel like getting a gun license should be much more difficult. I feel
Yeah.
like you should actually have to have intensive training
Yeah.
or a military background, something like that.
Or I was talking to my professor.
Um,
Yeah, I was talking on that note. I like to kind of bounce off of that one. I was talking to my
yeah.
professor about this, and I was telling him like the same argument we were having on the podcast last week that I think Second Amendment is a very silly law to have. And so we were kind of talking about it. He kind of provided like an interesting idea where I guess in France you can still own firearms, but what it is that you have to store your firearms in like in a gun club essentially. So you can go shoot the
Okay.
firearm or whatever and at the gun club and then come
Mm,
back. I think you can still own pistols, but it's more like you have to go through like intensive training to like do it. You have to be a part of the gun association essentially to own a firearm.
mhm.
And so it's very kind of like that's the kind of way they keep it strict and everything like that. And of course, you kind of argument to that is like, well, you're taking our guns, like you're taking away our freedom, and like it's kind of like the Second Amendment now has become like just a symbol of Americanness. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I'm kind of like this, like I forget. There's a certain type of philosophy. I mean, not philosophy. Enlightenment thinker. It was Hobbes, where like people are inherently evil, and the government is made to kind of protect people from their evilness.
Mhm.
I kind of like that idea. Like I think I don't think we can trust ourselves to kind of do anything. I think we need someone who is better than us and kind of like protect us from ourselves essentially. And I think doing those type of ways. And I kind of like what you're saying. Like I agree. I totally agree with like it should be like owning a car, but maybe a little more stricter than owning a car because a car you can possibly cause death. With the gun, you are gonna cause death if you hit somebody. You're trying to cause death essentially.
Well, I mean, the purpose of a gun is to cause death. It's
Yeah.
literally what it was designed for.
Yes. Yes. So I totally agree that owning a gun should be, definitely as strained as like hard as owning as like a car or driving a car, for example. And they're also talking about like how cheap it is to get firearms as well in the United States. I think they're showing that like a pistol, or I don't know, it's around like $200 to get a pistol, a pretty
Mhm.
decent pistol,
Mhm.
and about thousand
Yeah.
dollars and about $1,000 to get a semi-automatic rifle, which is like the same as like a MacBook.
Yeah,
It's like
it's interesting comparison.
yeah. So I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy how easy it is. I could buy a firearm if I wanted to right now. It's like shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, but no, I'm not going to. Um, but yeah, it was pretty crazy to kind of like go from like hearing what happened in Las Vegas to that within a couple of weeks. It's just like I think history. I think like, and you're taking statistics, right? That
Yeah.
you can. Isn't there some statistics where like if you see something going on a lot more, that means there's a problem. You start seeing a pattern. It's not if it's like one or one thing and then it happens maybe a couple years later or whatever. It's like an anomaly essentially. But if you look at this from a statistics standpoint and you see the gun violence going up, you see that there's some type of problem that's going on, and it's
Yeah.
the status quo is not the status quo is not stopping that issue. You know what I'm saying? So there
Yeah.
has to be something that changed. I mean, you have to start making changes, radical changes, because the status quo or anything close to what the status quo is not going to change this problem. I mean, like if you do like 10% changes and it goes like instead of losing 26 people, you lose like 20 people. You know what I'm saying? Even losing like 4 people, that's a terrible thing. Anybody in that type of
Yeah.
round is a terrible thing. So there has to be massive changes, but people care about people care about like their ideals or these politics and stupid things so much that we need to start saving people instead of saving these
Well, I
ideals
mean,
that
it's a cultural thing. It's
yeah, it's a cultural thing.
it's they've grown up with it, and that the thing that I think a lot of let's just say Southerners or Republicans in general don't really realize is like, yeah, okay, your culture is, hunting and stuff. Well, there's more than one type of gun culture, and I mean, honestly, theirs isn't that great either. Like they
Mhm.
grow up like, let's just things all the time. I
Yep.
understand it's hunting, it's animals, whatever, but you're literally training your child how to kill things at a time when you don't need to. It's
Yeah.
not even remotely necessary. And then the other versions of gun culture are, well, I need to protect myself because I live in a bad neighborhood. So, okay, I can't afford to buy a gun like legit. I can't afford all the licensings and stuff, so I'm just gonna get one. I mean, it's so cheap. It's so extremely cheap and abundant. Like, okay, there's more like guns than people in that city. I'm just gonna go over there and steal one.
Yeah.
Because gun safes are expensive and people who are gun owners don't always have gun safes. And there's just too many potential problems.
Mhm.
And it really should be fixed.
Yeah. I think we've kind of yeah. I think I will not be surprised if we have this conversation in the next few weeks because of something else that will
Yeah.
shitty happen. But hopefully, I don't under this presidency, under this current system, I don't think we're gonna see a lot of changes. To be fair.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the mass shootings have been happening a lot too. I wonder how long this one will remain in the top 10 worst mass shootings of all time.
or the Vegas one, you mean? Oh yeah, top
Yeah,
10. Oh, top 10. Yeah. Okay, I agree with you.
I'm just saying, I wonder how long it'll even stay in the top 10. It's just, we'll see.
And then speaking with this presidency and this administration, Trump went to China. Well, he's going to be going on an Asian tour to go places. He went
Yeah.
to Japan. He went to South Korea. I think right now he's in China right now, and
China.
China, and so it's. I guess they're buddying up now. I was looking at I was watching the Daily Show, and it was funny to kind of. I like the way they make satire. It's pretty funny.
Hmm.
So he was, I guess, well, a couple things. When Trump landed in China, the Chinese had a very large like celebration for him coming, and he was even starting to be like, what's it called, like awed by like their like the love of them and like all these different things. And it even
Hmm.
got to the point where, oh my, this is ridiculous. So I guess throughout the entire presidential campaign, Trump was saying that the reason why U.S. is such in a bad, shitty economy is because of China and basically are screwing us over with their labor and all
Hmm.
these different things like that. And the funniest thing was that when he was in China, he said that it wasn't China's fault; it was the U.S.'s fault for not being strong enough. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, really? Wow. And that was like one of your biggest things, like just like that China screws us over, it's China's fault, and then you just switch around like that. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, if you're someone who supported him on that idea or those types of ideals, and you just see him switch around like that, you have to be kind of losing faith in your guy. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If he's this tough talker and all
Yeah.
this shit, it's like, you should be like upset with what's gone on. And then kind of going on to that, I think he was now talking at the Asia Pacific, basically like the it's like a trade organization, I guess, meeting. I don't
Hmm.
have the article in front of me, but basically he was kind of blaming globalization and kind of like the reason why the U.S. is in shitty, a shitty economic state is because of these economic deals we've made in past presidencies. That's kind of been
Hmm.
like one-sided, where their tariffs are all the way up and our tariffs are down, and they're taking advantage of it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, because it's called capitalism, and we want cheap prices to be cheaper. Business ones want cheaper, and they want to go
Exactly.
find labor to that is cheaper, and they then have China produce it, and then they sell it in the United States. That's why you can buy an iPhone for like $800 or
Jeez.
whatever.
Yeah, they're still pretty pricey though. Yeah, I kind of like the thing that said there. I don't really know who it was. Says the head of Asian Trade Center. I don't really know what that's about. But she's like, yeah, Trump has a history of being nice in person and then immediately reverting to form once he leaves.
Mhm.
That was kind of what I was thinking when I was reading it. I'm like, yeah, the second he leaves, he's gonna start bad mouthing them, like
Mhm.
the second he leaves. And then someone
Mhm.
else said the exact same thing. I'm like, yep, yep, we all know you. We all
So
know your game,
it's
dude.
like, will the real President Trump please stand up? Like seriously, man.
Well, there's
And
that thing at
yeah,
the
yeah, go.
beginning of his presidency where like every week he was meeting like different heads of countries, and every week his opinions were changing because they would tell him something.
Uh, I don't, I don't know what's going on anymore. Like, I feel like we're like we're making big splashes but not going anywhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're in a lake and like
Okay.
we're like like thrashing. We're in a what's it called, a canoe, right? And we're just
Okay.
kind of like just like paddling really hard, but not really going anywhere. Just kind of like just splashing water in this
Mm-hmm.
canoe, and like I feel like that defines U.S. domestic and foreign policy right now. Like we're just that's the best way I can
Mm.
describe it. Just like lots of noise, but
Flailing around.
exactly
Yeah.
like we're drowning, but not really drowning. Um, but yeah, it's just and then I don't know. We talked about this with globalization, right? And it's funny because I guess the president of China right now, I don't know his name. I forget what his name is.
Z.
Ching or something like that. Sorry, I don't
Just call
know.
him Z.
Z, yeah, I'll call him Z. My homie Z. Um,
Jinping.
and he was, I guess, on the flip side. So I guess Trump was really much this protectionist. Like we have to keep tariffs up and like have a trade surplus. That means we're exporting more than we're importing. Um, the other guy was like, well, actually, globalization is good because we're all for that free economy and all that stuff, and like capitalism, like it's all good. Like let's keep it going. And it's funny because like, and he's the communist. It's just like, what the hell's going on now? Uh, China's a funny little story that's really interesting to see with terms of economies. But yeah, I've kind of heard
Yeah.
like a couple of things when it comes to like in terms of like capitalist globalization. Like, of course, you lose some more like what's it called, like factory jobs because all of them go to foreign countries where you can pay
Mm-hmm.
the labor cheaper. And essentially, that's what capitalism looks for. It looks for like how can we produce our things cheaper and more efficiently. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what capitalist countries do and the businesses that are in there. How can they do those things cheaper? How can they get bigger
Yeah.
profit margins? I mean, that's been going on since in the Industrial Revolution.
Since Rockefeller.
Yeah, I mean, like that's why they paid their labor such shitty, monies or income. And like
Yeah.
that's why they've made like their regulations were so low is because they want to make bigger profits.
Exactly.
That's the point of capitalism. That's the point of the world we live in. Yep.
Yeah. It's not always a good thing, though. I mean,
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
just because that's the point of capitalism doesn't mean it's something we should strive for.
I know, but what I'm saying is that like it's like, and but then I was gonna say this is my second point, but like also it makes things cheaper for us too, right? I mean, in terms of
Yeah, but I mean, on the other hand, you
okay,
start having,
yeah,
if you're just like, oh yeah, like let the corporations do what they want so that they can
hmm
get better profit margins. You have the thing where like there are these papers that came out recently about all of the money smuggling basically by rich people and giant corporations, and it's like, oh hey, it turns out Apple dodged $250 billion in taxes,
yeah, I mean that, yeah, that's
and we're in
offshore
extreme
accounts.
debt, and
Yeah,
that's one corporation. Guess what? I think if all the corporations actually paid all of their taxes, we might not be in debt. Literally,
yeah,
if one company can account for $250 billion, maybe we should like pay a little more attention.
and I think on that note, I think you make a really good points how their companies are. I mean, it does show. I mean, like define what type of society you want to live in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
I'm
if
just
you
saying we
yeah.
shouldn't go all the way to like trickle down logic because it
Yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, define what type of society you want to live in. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Trump is like this. He's like the ultimate capitalist dude. I mean, he throws around his money in real estate and all these different things, and he's like he loves businesses. He loves the corporate lifestyle, and all those things. And it's just like you can have your cake and eat it too. Like you have to choose. Like just know that if you go this route and things are gonna things are gonna happen. There's gonna be like less businesses are gonna open up. You know,
Yeah, I think Trump is
yeah,
almost the epitome of like the worst side of capitalism, though, where he's
yeah,
like, well, I'm so rich, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna let people do work for me and then not pay them. Then when they sue me, I'll hire a lawyer and I'll win, and then I won't pay the lawyer.
hmm
Like, you can't do anything. I have too much money. What are you gonna do? I'm invincible. And
yeah,
in a purely capitalist society, money is ultimate power
yeah,
above even the government. Hence the lack of taxing,
yeah, and then
and
all
that's
yeah,
not a good thing if you want
yeah,
to live in a society.
yeah. I agree. I totally agree with that. I mean, of course, I don't think I don't think like a laissez-faire like old ass
Yeah.
industrial revolution thing is not a good society to live in for anybody. I mean, It's funny. I was watching this documentary on the History Channel. It was called what was it called? It was called like it was kind of like a historical biopic documentary type of thing where they follow like
Mm,
the Rockefellers and I think it was like industrial something. I forgot what it was called. Um,
okay.
but they were talking about how like with Rockefeller he had like a what's it called what's it called when you have like a bunch of like you own the entire like business like the entire
Monopoly.
monopoly, yeah.
Monopoly.
And he had a monopoly on like the oil and all this stuff. And like I don't think it was until Roosevelt who came in and kind of broke up the monopolies and all that stuff. And it kind of
Mm-hmm.
takes like a special person because like you said like these businesses have lots of power, they have lots of money to kind of influence politics or whatever they want to do. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of takes a special person to kind of like deal with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So
And what's kind of funny actually with the Rockefeller thing is that even though his company got broken up, it wasn't a monopoly anymore.
yeah.
He had such a good deal from it that he ended up becoming even richer from
Mhm.
the monopoly because he was allowed to own or like get money from all of the companies that were formed.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, he went from having one giant company to all of the small companies.
Mhm.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, but even then, like, I mean, it took somebody very special like Roosevelt to
Oh
kind of
yeah,
come.
no, it's yeah, exactly. It takes someone actually willing to fight for
Yeah.
the people to actually get anything like that done. I
Mhm.
mean, it's a scary thing to do, you know. You have to like you're like, okay, I'm gonna take on the giant company that funds everyone else.
Mhm.
That yeah, that's terrifying.
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, there's has to be curtailed. I mean, of course, we don't live in a laissez-faire. There's laws and regulations
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But then, of course, companies want to move around that because they want to make money. So they go to
Hmm.
like China, all these other places, and we lose jobs here.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm trying to like wrap my head around this right now. But like, it's kind of like it's gonna like happen already. So you can't really
Hmm.
change anything. But my thing is
Okay.
that if you want to have businesses come back, you pretty much have to screw over our citizens. Like you have to deregulate. I mean, this is all like impure logic. An economist would probably say no, this is not right. But I'm trying to think it out right now. Like you would have to probably deregulate a lot. You would probably have to like put wages down and all that stuff to allow businesses to
Hmm.
come back. And unless you don't want to make them any margins, you're doing it for like a more moralistic thing where it's like like we want to do this because it's American made and all that stuff. But I
Yeah.
feel like if you to bring those kind of businesses back, you would have to do those things. You would have to kind of re-replicate what's going on within those third world countries and bring it to the United States.
Yeah, I agree. So that I mean, that's the thing is, I think it's a terrible idea to be like, oh, we need to get all those factory jobs back here, and we need to just stay. This industry worked for us 70 years ago. We were at the peak, 60 years ago. Why aren't we still at the peak right now? Why isn't Detroit still making cars? And the
Mhm.
answer is, well, we're not the best country to do that anymore.
Mhm.
We need to adapt.
Mhm.
Even within companies, that's the thing is if you don't adapt as a company, you will die, and
Exactly.
that happens. I mean, that's why Amazon is that's what the person who owns Amazon just became the wealthiest man in the world.
Mhm.
He just passed Bill Gates a couple weeks ago
Wow.
because he's a huge adapter. And
Mhm.
then that's why all the retail stores are going to close down now because they haven't adapted enough.
Mhm.
Or they adapted by asking Amazon to make their websites for them, which is a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Yeah.
So we as a country have to adapt, and we have the money and technology to do it. But then you have all these idiots with their weird morals and things,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh no, we need to stick to the basic industry that we know. Or you have the people who are like, yeah, coal's coming back. I don't want to learn how to do another industry that'll pay me more with safer conditions and
Mhm.
better benefits. I
Mhm.
want to do coal. And it's like, well, maybe we should like focus on more important things because
Mhm.
other countries are investing in technologies.
Mhm.
So if we decide we want to invest in it 30 years after them, we're going to be a little behind. um,
And we were kind of talking about this in terms of like we've been talking about this on the podcast on and off, and like we
yeah.
talked about how like you can go to high school and like get a decent job and it's probably like something like industrial or was working like
Hmm.
in a store somewhere or something like that. But now it's like you have to now probably get a college degree to kind of have that lifestyle now, And I
Yeah.
think it's kind of reflected the type of change that's going on with us. We're more services now, and that means we have to have like business degrees. We have to like understand how marketing works, understand how these different things work, and this is just generally right.
Mm-hmm.
And like you got to have these certain skills because now we're going to be doing a lot more planning and more like how can we make the company more money, like how could we expand more in these areas, or like knowing numbers and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that's kind of what the job is for most Americans, is doing those types of things, or customer service or anything like that. How can we keep our customers in this area, more like planning, and you need to have college degrees to kind of do those types of things.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
and I was gonna say that like, and now the industry has now moved to other places, and we're now doing more of the overhead and more like that's kind of what's going on domestically. But that's kind of like all I got. Maybe that's why you have to have college degrees now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say there if you look at all the industries, there's like projected growth for any given job.
Hmm.
And if you look at the jobs that have large projected growth, it's all in technology um and certain types of medicine fields.
Hmm.
Especially like, some genetics and stuff. So I've been looking into it. It's like, yeah, genetics medicine is projected to grow far, like they call it like well above average or whatever, however they phrase it.
Wow.
It's just like, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, so, and these are just predicted. They're not necessarily 100% true, but it's just, the technologies and advancing technologies and using the more advanced technologies is where the future is.
Hmm.
So you can try to delay it. You can delay the country as much as you want and just be like, oh yeah, we're just going to focus on, bringing coal back and bringing factory workers back, trying to get steel mill. And then I guess next, we'll get like corn mills and we'll try to re-up the cotton industry, and then we'll try to bring back the tobacco farm workers and ban all the technology for that. That way we'll have more jobs.
It's kind of
The
like
country will be
yeah.
shit. We'll have no money as a country, but we'll have more jobs.
Yeah, and I think on that note, like it's kind of like capitalism, or like those type of ideas have like they have like their own idea, like ideas of their own. Like it kind
Hmm.
of just like takes off. I mean, you can kind of get like curtail it, of course, with laws and things of that nature, but it's kind of already going to progress towards those types of things already. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of moving that way. Like even if you don't want it, like a good example is like the coal thing, right? Like yeah,
Hmm.
you want to try to bring back coal, but like yeah, but no one's investing in coal all that much. It's like green energy, like
Well, yeah, it's a dead industry. I mean, okay, not yet. It's
yeah,
far from a dead industry.
yeah.
It's a slowly, very slowly dying industry.
In the United States, I don't know about any other world, but
Yeah, I mean, unless we want to ship everything to China, I
yeah,
think they have an ample supply though.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
not as many countries are using coal. That's why I said, like, if we had invested in solar technology, like as a country invested, like the way that we invested in the moon landing,
yeah.
like 20 years ago, we would be freaking wealthy. We would be on top of that. I mean, because we have so much influence, particularly, a couple decades ago. It would be like, hey, look, we have this new technology. It's freaking amazing.
Hmm.
You should have your entire country switch over to this technology. And
Yeah.
countries would have done it.
Hmm.
We could have been very wealthy. And then there's even like the
Or
stem cell thing, which it's
yeah, natural gas too.
where
Just
it's like,
yeah,
yeah, where it's like we know that stem cells are these amazing things that can cure everything. Not literally, but it can cure a lot of things. It
yeah.
can help a lot of things. It can possibly stop aging,
Wow.
and people were like, no, ban it. Why? Well, because babies have stem cells. Well, so do adults. Yeah, but babies have stem cells. Okay, I guess we'll ban it. And then it was banned from the country for a few years, and research came to a halt in our country. Other countries ignored that and continued because they're not freaking idiotic.
Quick question. I just kind of going on topic a little bit.
Yeah.
I've heard of stem cells, but I don't really know what or where it comes from.
Mm.
If you kind of explain that really
Okay.
quickly.
Yeah, sure. So a stem cell is just so you have different types of cells. You have skin cells, you have liver cells, you have
Mm-hmm.
brain cells.
Mm-hmm.
Um, each different type of cell has a different function, and that function is decided very early on. It's decided, when you're developing as a
Mm-hmm.
fetus. And that's sort of where the misconception starts to come from, is stem cells are most abundant when you're like basically undeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
And stem cells exist in all living things. They exist in plants, they exist in animals. but they're very species specific because the DNA. Anyway, a lot of stuff. So stem cells are just cells that haven't decided what type of cell they are yet.
So
So
yeah, so where they have to
so
get them
if
from, or
that's the thing. There's a lot of different ways to get them. There was this big like kind of breakthrough that someone had, and then I heard maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about this, but there was someone in I think China who found a way to revert skin cells into stem cells.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different places you can get them, I guess. So like I said, they do occur mostly in a fetus. But I mean, not just the fetus. It occurs in like when you're in the womb. So one of the best places to get it is actually the umbilical cord
mm,
because it doesn't turn into your body. So
ah,
when someone is born, it's still there.
ah,
The main thing we're trying to do, I don't know, like I'm not really in the stem cell field.
yeah, no problem.
So I don't know where the technology is right now, but the biggest thing that they're trying to do is like, so stem cells are great, they do amazing things, but the same as when you do an organ donation, they can get rejected.
Yeah,
So the best source of stem cells would be from your own body.
okay,
You have very limited stem cells in your own body. You
okay,
can't really like, there's not a place where you can scoop them up and move them to a different organ or
yeah,
anything like that. So the biggest thing was, okay, we need to find a way to turn a fully grown adult cell into a stem cell.
mm,
But and there's different. They've figured out a few different things. Like I said, last I saw, they were trying to do skin cells, and they were having pretty good success. Um, but yeah, it's
yeah. And then also on that note,
I
I've
don't
heard that
know.
stem cells are really. I think a lot of people use them for like injuries and different things like that. Like I know I don't know
Mm-hmm.
like they use it for like for like muscle tears and things of that nature to kind of get
Mm-hmm.
growth back together and things of that nature. So I've heard really good things of stem cells. So I didn't really know what it was and like how would you
Yeah,
get it.
it's just a cell that hasn't. It's a blank cell, I guess you could call
Okay.
it.
Okay. So yeah. So I'm just gonna go back on topic we were talking about. But yeah, there's a bunch of like these industries that are very you can't just a factory worker just can't like get them. You have to be specialized, trained to get these types of things and do these types of jobs. And
Mm-hmm.
those jobs are now going to move forward. I mean, unless you deregulate, like we are just saying, deregulate, make sure that you allow for these factories or these companies to pay their workers less in the factories in the United States. That's the only way you're gonna get these jobs back, and no one wants that. Like no one wants to work those jobs anyways. I mean, look at like the greatest example is you look at the farm workers in California or like picking tomatoes and things of that nature. Like literally, you get paid almost nothing. Like no one's gonna want to do those jobs. So if you brought that job back to the United States, like you have like in China or like in other places, no one's gonna want to work that long for that many hours for that little pay. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's unrealistic in that regard either. Like no one's gonna want to work that job. Like there's
Yeah.
like the farm workers in the California, like that's most perfect example where they're working those same type of conditions, and you don't see people lining up to take those jobs. To be fair,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's my only thing on that. Where we have unrealistic goals for us, and we need to kind
Yeah,
of
I mean, it's hard. We're such a big country. It's hard to just like change everything. You
yeah,
can kind of do it in like a European country where you only have 1 million people.
yeah, I agree.
Um, yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Country's so big, everything is complicated.
Everything's and plus every state's so different too. It's like its own little country
Oh
where they
yeah.
have like their own little issues. They have their own little economic geography areas and things of that nature. And
Hmm.
it's hard to kind of like say what's kind of going on in the United States, but it's like what's going on in each state. But in the largest given goals, it's kind of like that's where things are at in a sense.
Hmm. Okay, I
Um,
double checked on the stem cell thing.
yeah.
So okay, so I was right. The best source is just the umbilical cord, but apparently you can also get it from your bone marrow,
Ooh,
and then from your teeth, and then like I said, skin.
is that painful?
Um, Oh yeah, bone marrow extraction. I mean, you can do bone marrow donations. I've heard it's pretty horribly painful
I mean,
because
like, I mean,
it's in the middle of your bone. So,
I mean, I know bone marrow is pretty hard to get out. But in terms of like, if you got it from your skin, would that be painful? Or they have to like,
oh, I mean, there's a lot of different. It would probably be like tender a lot after. I guess it depends how much skin they need. Like burn patients will sometimes have a skin transplant.
I mean, I
They usually
know.
just take
Yeah.
skin from somewhere that you don't need it as much.
I mean, like if they were to get stem cells from your skin, they would have to like cut your skin up, right?
Oh, no, no, no. So what it is they literally take your skin cells, like so they I don't know, like I'm just gonna over exaggerate. Like basically they skin a small portion of you,
Oh,
and then they take the cells of that skin and turn it into stem cells. So they don't have to get underneath or anything. It's like
they scrape
I
it.
mean they literally need yeah, like a small amount of your skin. Um
Ah,
yeah.
jeez.
Yeah,
Um.
and then you have a few blood stem cells kind of floating around in your blood as well.
Oh, sweet.
But not a lot, like not like almost none at all. They call it peripheral stem cells because it's so small, such a small amount.
Yeah. And I guess one of the last news stories I've kind of found is, there's all these talks of these sexual assault allegations by these
Mm-hmm.
women against Hollywood actors. So the first one, of course, was Kevin Spacey, and I believe that one he was with an 18. Oh, there's a couple like people I think, but like the most
Yeah.
recent or the most like biggest one is I guess he was hanging with an 18-year-old boy or very close to 18 years old, and I guess he was trying to like sexually assault him by like touching his genitalia and basically like while he was drunk or whatever. So that was kind of like okay, like that's pretty shitty. Even got to the point where he was cut out. Kevin Spacey was cut out of his movie with I forget what the movie was called, but it was about Getty, and supposedly all his scenes had to be reshot, which is pretty drastic. And of course Steven Seagal was the most recent one. And then right now when I woke up, turns out that now there are people going against Louis C.K. I think about 5 women have said that they have. I guess I don't know if they sexually assaulted them, but like they're like doing weird things with them. Like I guess he like would jerk off and like they would watch him. I think and
Hmm.
things of that nature. But it was just like really uncomfortable for a lot of these people. So even for them, like I guess he was coming out with a new movie, and now they're questioning how they're gonna release it if they are gonna release it. And a couple
Yeah.
of his late night shows are gonna be taken down or not. He was not gonna appear on late night shows. And the reason why I brought this argument or this thing in like, it's like, well, couple things. Well, there's a couple things. So it kind of started off with the Weinstein thing, and it's kind of gone on from
Mm.
there. You have a lot more people coming out and saying this is bad about Hollywood, and it's just it's sad because
Mm.
those people who like, I think the person the most, Louis C.K. is a funny dude as well. Um, what's the other guy's name? Martin. What's his name? Fuck. What's his name? Who's the first guy named off? Spacey. Kevin Spacey. These are all
Uh-huh.
talented people, and it's just like, wow. I'm trying to wrap my head of like what my opinion. I mean, of course it's shitty. It's terrible, right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to come up with a couple things. So of course, yeah, men have a lot of power in the Hollywood industry. I think it shows a lot. I mean, men have power
Hmm.
in a lot of places. I mean, this type of thing does not only happen in this industry. It happens like everywhere or a lot of places. So I think on that level, it kind of
Mm.
shows that it's still a male-dominated field in terms of business and things of that nature, where men can get
Mm.
away with this for such a long time. 'Cause I think for Lucy K was like in 2002 when I guess one of the first things happened with him on this issue. Um, I would not be surprised if we see a lot more Hollywood actors be accused of these types of things. But I think on the
Yeah,
larger
it
issue,
seems like people are getting more willing to kind of come out about it. So,
yeah, and I think it not only demonstrates what's going on within Hollywood within that industry, but I think it also kind of I think in a larger scheme of things, it kind of also demonstrates what goes on in other industries as well. Because it would not be surprising to kind of see that as well. So it's sad not only because these people are talented, but like it's sad to kind of see those things still going on with these types of big names.
hmm.
Um, so what's your thinking on this?
I mean, like I said, it just kind of seems like people are more willing to come out about it. We weren't really old enough in the 90s, but from the sound of it, it sounds like it was much more just kind of normal then,
Oh,
which
okay.
is kind of crazy to me. Where it was like people would kind of like, if someone would try to come out about it, people would just get upset at them.
Yeah.
Like they would just get upset at the victim for like, oh, why are you trying to like just get over it like that, like literally like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Apparently that was just a thing that would happen in the 90s. So it's like I think given certain context, you kind of realize like, wow, shit, this is like even worse than it seemed initially.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's good that it's finally all kind of coming out though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, it's I don't know, it's crazy. There was actually a politician recently who was also accused of something similar.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and
Yeah, it's pretty. It's getting pretty
it
crazy.
seems like it's just yeah, it seems like it's happening a lot, like really fast. It's like they're I hadn't even heard about this one. Like
Yeah,
it's just happening so much right now. It's weird.
yeah. So I think it'll be kind of good to kind of get these things out and hopefully change, the culture within the industry,
Mm,
and hopefully it kind of spreads out into other industries as well, and we start to see these practices kind of be eliminated, slowly but
mm,
surely, and hopefully it'll make businesses a lot better. We'll get better people in those certain areas instead of having
yeah,
to kind of go through these loops that a lot of women have to go through, which will be a very big positive thing.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean that was kind of crazy. I woke up like, wow, like it's gonna increase. I think we're gonna see a lot more people kind of come out and show that these things are still going on with other types of people as well.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's good, but then also bad. It's like it's good that they're coming out. It's bad that it
It's
happened. It's just
talented
I don't
people
know.
too.
It's just it's bad to see how much it
Yeah,
has occurred.
yeah. And I think the last thing I kind of want to not end with, but like I didn't plan this right now, or I didn't plan it in the pre-show, but
Hmm.
we also had I guess a lot of midterm elections for a lot of
Oh yeah, yeah,
representative seats and governor seats as
yeah.
well.
Hmm.
It was pretty crazy, especially for the Democrats. I think they won a good amount of their seats, especially like in.
They won like everything
I
practically.
think the only thing they didn't win was I think it was like in Georgia. I think it was, and I guess they had paid a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
money into this
I
race,
even heard of that.
and they lost. I think that was
Okay.
the only one that they lost, but they lost. They won a lot of governor seats. The Democrats did. And they won a lot of House of Representative seats.
Hmm.
It was the funniest. There was a couple of like karma things. I think it was in Montana. I think I'm not sure,
Okay.
but there was this House Representative rep who was saying that we should ban immigrants from like African countries or something like that.
Okay.
And I guess a guy from Liberia ended up winning that race.
Oh yeah. There
And
another thing similar happened actually also. There was the person who like wrote the bathroom bill, the one like against
oh
transgender
yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah,
and he lost to a transgender
yeah, in
person, the
person.
first openly transgender person to win a legislative seat.
Or I think it was in New Jersey, a House Representative when he was talking about like women's marching or whatever. He
Hmm.
said, I guess he put out a Facebook or a Twitter post where it's like women can like protest as long as they make it back to the kitchen in time. And like, oh, guess one woman who heard those comments was kind of like, what the
Hmm.
heck? And she ended up running. Like she heard this comment, she stood up and ran for that seat
Okay.
and won. Um,
Wow.
I wasn't there some other. I'm trying to think. I think it might have been. Was it the? I think wasn't the husband of the girl who was shot. I remember that. Do you remember that story where
Oh, geez, that sounds familiar.
like the one was a news reporter and she was shot like on by a disgruntled work person on
Uh-huh.
live television. I think the husband ran and won. I think. I think that also.
Sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah. I think he was also a Democrat too. But it was just like karma. It was just like karma hit hard. And I think it was in what state was it? I think it was Virginia, right? Where this guy he was running on Trump's policies and he was being essentially Trump, but he lost. And then Trump
Hmm.
basically said that, "Oh, like I'm sad for what's his face, but he didn't embrace me or the things I stood for. So like he's not a true Trump person." And it's just like, "What?
Hmm.
Really?" Like, yeah, it's kind of shows that maybe things are not going too hot for the Republicans right now. And this was just, this one wasn't even midterm elections. This was just like, some of these seats had to be opened up and changed. And if it was this bad for that, I wonder how bad it's going to be when the actual midterm elections come around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll have to see. She got to keep up the momentum.
Yeah. And like, I kind of just preference this to the podcast, everybody. Like, I might for myself, for myself, but like I might seem like a Democrat, but I'm more like I feel like I'm more like a conservative, and more to
Mm-hmm.
center conservative. But as of right now, like when I look at the Republican Party, I just don't
Mm-hmm.
see any good things there. So that's why I'm leaning a lot more left on a lot of these issues. But I actually feel more conservative, um, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so that's why I kind of preference when I say momentum, all these different things like that. But yeah, like right
Mm-hmm.
now, I just don't like the conservative party that's kind of being represented. It's not for me.
Well, we don't have a current conservative party. All we have is a
Radical, like
anti-progressive party. They stopped being conservative at some point. It's kind of weird.
it's like it's like weird.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah, so that's kind of my take on politics. If you kind of guys like, well, was this guy stand for Democrat, like liberal, like, kind of, but not really, kind of like center.
Yeah.
I'm my own man. I let no party speak for me.
Yeah, same. It's like I'm mostly on one side, but I have definitely some explicit things on
I'm a
the other.
human being. God damn it.
No, that's crazy.
I'm a robot. I'm a projection of God. Damn. But yeah, that's kind of like the news that's kind of going on. I'm trying to think of anything else that's kind of happened in my life or anything else. Trying to think. No, excited for Thanksgiving. That should be awesome. My bro's gonna come back, which should be cool. I get to mess around with somebody again. Um,
Hmm.
but no, things are gonna go well. Oh, for research, I kind of want to maybe get a little bit of update on research. My research is going very well. It kind of sucked this week because I was trying to meet with
Hmm.
my professor on Tuesday, and we usually meet like like around midday or something like that. But then he couldn't get there till like 1 o'clock, and so I have a class at like 1:40. She's just like, yeah, I guess we'll have to meet Thursday. And he's like, yeah, sure, we can meet Thursday. And plus, I had to do like a bunch of other things as well, to kind of make sure when we meet, we have things to talk about. And then Thursday, I'm getting the abstract I have to do done, and then I was getting other research done. Excuse me. And
Hmm.
I found some awesome books from my research as well. I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. We're gonna I'm like have all these good sources and anything like that. And I'm ready to do this meeting on
Hmm.
Thursday. And then he's like, oh, I'm sick. I'm like, uh and plus there's like a bunch of questions I want to ask him too. And so I was talking to my dad on the way home. It was just like I bet you everyone who takes this class is like, yes. I'm the only one who's like, no. Like, why? Send Oscar. Send your dog with you.
Hmm.
But no. So yeah. So research is going very well. It's
Good.
progressing well, and I have. Let's see. I'm
You
doing.
found
Sorry.
that cool book recently.
Yes, I found that cool. Actually, I need to put it on the Instagram. But yeah, the book was like the best book I ever found. Was like, oh my god, it's like amazing. It's like really amazing. But yeah, it's progressing very well. I'm about to end this author this week, and I'm going to start the last author or last thinker of that age or that period,
Hmm.
and then we look at kind of like other perceptions of them to kind of see if they acted true to what they were saying. And then I hopefully start writing by the end of this year or beginning of next year or next quarter. I mean. So yeah,
Hmm.
progressing very well. I was just say something else. Let me ask you this, Ben. I was kind of thinking of this right now
Okay.
when I
Yeah.
was in my thoughts, which is a dangerous place.
Hmm.
Um, do you think there's a lot of people who go to school who actively want to change the world they live in, or do they think
Hmm.
that the school that we kind of reside in, they just go there for just to make a buck, make it through the world?
I think it's a large combination of different things. My first day there, I met someone who actively hated not just Davis, but school in general. Hated every class, said, don't go to any workshops, don't talk to any, it's all useless, it's all pointless. And then I found out that she's like doing poorly in all her classes because she just doesn't care. And I'm like, so why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I have to be.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. So I think it's a combination of there's some people who like, when you're growing up, you hear like college, 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 college. You have to go to college, do college, do college. Most people don't really realize that there's like several other options.
Mm-hmm.
I have the benefit of having a mom who was like a career counselor for high school students, or
Yeah.
something similar. I think that's a good short way of saying it. Who knows all the different options and things. I still chose college, but I did community college first.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's some people who are literally just there because they think they have to be, or
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, well, I need to become a doctor or I need to become a lawyer because that's just what my family wants me to do. So I'm going to do that. And that does require college.
Yeah.
There's some people who are there who are like, I want to just learn everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people who are there because like, well, I have to if I want to make good money.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some people who are there who are like, well, I want to do this thing. Like, like you said, I want to change this thing about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, I have to know this thing, or I have to have this degree, or I have to have these connections.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a big, I think you'll find all of the different reasons you could possibly think of and several that you never would have thought of.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah, I think, let's say this, I don't think the majority of people are there to change the world. um,
I mean, I think that. I mean, I think it depends on what institution you go to. If you go to like MIT, then I would think a lot of people are there because they have these big ideas for these things. I think that
yeah.
also helps too as well. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I know like some people. I'm like, you're smart, but you just don't have that work ethic. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
you do these. You're saying you're doing this, and I talk to you, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this because like not people ought to do that or things of that nature. And I'm just like, and I look at the work ethic you have. Like, I don't know the grades you're getting or anything like that, but it's just like why are you here? Like why would you take so much? It's not easy to get into Davis. I mean, it's not easy to get into like a big institution. Like,
Yeah.
why would you work so freaking hard and then just like, I'm just gonna give it easy. And I think it also comes down to this idea where you think you find, you people think of success, right? Like I've made it, but a lot of people think, okay, you get to cruise, right? Like, no, you can't cruise. Like, if you cruise, you're talking about like this. If you don't adapt, you don't try to survive, you don't try to change. Like in business, you're gonna like flounder. You're not gonna make it. You have to like constantly, be putting in work and constantly rethinking the way you do things. That's the only way you're gonna actually, do well. I mean, if you stay
Hmm.
situated in the little bubble you're in, then you're not gonna. You're just gonna just go nowhere. If not, maybe probably go down to where you came from. And so I was just kind of, I don't know, I was just kind of talking that I feel a lot of people don't really use school in the ways that they could use school, and bake.
Yeah.
Imagine
I
ever,
mean,
yeah, just go.
I would say there's a lot of different ways to use school, though. So it's kind of,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, it's some people go there because they're like, well, I just, it's their first time being independent at all. And they're just like, well, I just want to like, start being an adult kind of, but also I have all this freedom, so I'm going to start using this freedom that I have.
Mhm.
Um, you know, then you have the people that are 40 and they're at college
Yeah.
and they're called like non-traditional students or whatever. I don't know. I feel like there's such a wide range
Mhm.
because there's some people who I've met who it's like I meet them and I'm like, oh, what year are you? Because I think they must be a senior, and they're like, oh, I just transferred here. Like, oh, well, dang, you seem like you have it really together. And then there's people like, in fact, there's a few specific people who I've met who I'm like, are you sure you're even like in high school, let alone college? Like they act like they just got into high school, maybe. Like they act like they're from middle school. Um, and it's like I don't really know why you're here.
But the
um,
school's like, give me that money, give me that
well,
money.
it's probably like, your grades are good and stuff. I think community college is more money grabbing. I feel like universities are all about like that prestige because they already have money. I mean,
True.
Davis has money. They don't need to worry that much about like the money aspect of it. It's more like, well, if we have this person who went to Davis and they become important, then we have more prestige, and then we'll be more important, and we'll get more applicants, and we can deny more applicants, and then we'll look more important.
Yeah. I
And it's
got
just
you.
this nice little cycle.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I was just kind of like my thoughts. I'm just like, you guys have like, you guys are here. You guys can like have all these resources. You guys don't take advantage of it. I'm just like, wow. Why would like in my head? It's just like, why would you put in so much work to get here and then to kind of just screw it all up in the end? It's just,
Yeah.
and people, I think it's that idea where people are like, I've made it, I can now choose, and it's like,
Like, yeah.
nope, yeah, let's see how long that far that takes you.
I
So
think that happens in different, like multiple different times
yeah,
in people's lives. They're like, hey, I finally got to I finally got to my end goal. Because they don't, people, you don't usually think 50 years in the future. So like, I reached my end goal. Now I can just, relax. I can finally relax. Or even more likely, like they don't have a next goal. If you don't have a next goal, you can't really, you can't work hard toward a thing because you don't
yeah.
have anything you're working toward.
And I think also on that note, I don't think it's kind of hard to kind of have your lives in goals. You know what I'm saying? Like what I'm trying to say is that
Hmm.
you can't, like, it's good to have goals, but you shouldn't be like, you should not enjoy getting the goal. You should kind of enjoy the process of what you're doing. Like in,
I think that's a pretty hard thing to try to make people do. The goal, winning something
of
is
course,
kind of where all the joy comes from. Like saying, "Oh, we'll enjoy the journey." It's like, well, you can enjoy it. You don't have to be miserable while you're trying to get to your goal. But at the same time, I mean, just the journey process isn't necessarily like you can't necessarily enjoy the journey all the time.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying you should
You know,
like, I'm not saying you should be like, like, oh, like, don't enjoy the goal. I mean, the goal should be there, right? I mean, the goal should be
yeah.
winning, getting good grades and all that stuff. But like, I don't think you can do your life just goal oriented, because then, like, I don't know. I feel
Hmm.
like the life's not fuller. It's not like, you know, if you enjoy the process more, like, sorry, I'm trying to like wrap my head around this, but
Yeah.
like I think that, for myself, I'm just gonna do it for myself, right? Like, of course, for myself, I want to, like, do well in school and all that stuff, but like for myself, I enjoy what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Like, I enjoy doing historical research. I enjoy asking questions. I enjoy learning new
Hmm.
things, and it shouldn't just be about like, oh, I'm just gonna go get this degree and like all that stuff. Because once you get it, it's like, oh, you're stuck. Like, okay, what do I do now? Like, you should enjoy like the process of learning. You should enjoy the process of trying to figure things out, challenging yourself. And I think if you live in that type of way, I think you'll find a much richer life, and it'll just be beyond these mere static goals. I think it can kind of infuse into other parts of your life. If you just kind of go goal oriented, just pure
Hmm.
goal oriented, I feel like your life's not as full because you're just looking for these static things. And once you get it, you're like, okay, what now?
I
And
can
I'll,
agree to like
yeah,
to a
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. I'm not saying my argument's not perfect, but I think that's kind of like the way I kind of do my life. Is that like I'm kind of like process or enjoy the process of what I'm doing, instead
Hmm.
of just purely just the goals or just based on purely making money or all that stuff, which should be important. I'm not saying it should not be important, but I think the
Hmm.
process should also be enjoyed at the same time. You should also enjoy the process of what you're doing. That's my thing. Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah. So yeah,
Mm.
I mean, that's kind of one of the thoughts. I was like I was noticing a lot more because like I have a lot more time to kind of like people watch and just kind of
Okay.
and just judge people because that's what I do. I'm just kidding. I don't judge people. Sometimes I do.
Yeah, you do.
I judge people a lot. But the thing is, I think I judge myself more than harsher than other people.
That's fair.
Like I put more pressure on myself to be at a certain level, like than I do like judging other people. Like, I judge myself harsher than when I do to other people, to be fair. Like, I always try to keep myself in check and just like, like I was telling you before, like I'm battling with myself. Should I work harder? And maybe on the outside it might seem like, oh my God, he like works a lot. He only just does homework, and like
Hmm.
for myself, just like I didn't do enough work, even if I did do enough work. And so that's kind of like
Yeah.
that's kind of like myself, where I like if people are like, well, he's a dick. I was like, well, you should hear the things I'm talking about myself. Like I put myself in like a high standard so I can try to improve myself, improve the world,
Hmm.
and that's why I think we should all be here, is to change the world, make the world a little bit better and less shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people's first goal is, survive. It's a pretty big goal that people have generally.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense if it depends where you're in, but like I think that also you should, if you should expand upon yourself. You shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, you get these weird things where, like, I saw an article today where it was like, Okay, let's see. There's multiple things. I've heard there were these people in I don't remember where, some country, and there are these bankers, and they're making about $1 million a year. That was the average salary, and they're like, yeah, no, we need more money. We're not making, we're barely scraping by. We're living paycheck to paycheck. It's
Hmm.
like, uh-huh. And you have these people who we call them upper middle class sometimes, but like, or was it, there was some government official who recently was like, yeah, I'm middle class, and he was making it's like $450,000 a year or something.
Ooh.
And it's like, do you know what middle class is? And there was an article, another one that was like, because the tax thing is coming. It was like
Yeah.
these people who are like, I don't feel like I'm wealthy. And the picture of the article was this guy walking. It was like a purebred something or other. It's a multi-thousand-dollar dog. I can
Ooh.
definitely tell you that from experience. Walking through um, I said multi-thousand-dollar dog. Okay, so thousands of dollar dog walking through a multi-million-dollar neighborhood, and with the tagline, "I don't feel wealthy," and I'm like, yeah. How delusional are you? Like, what, you think you have to be Bill Gates to be wealthy? Wealthy doesn't mean multi-billionaire. Millionaire is enough
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
considered wealthy.
Exactly.
And it's just people, it's like I don't know if this is just a common thing among people who grew up rich. If it's like, well, everyone I've ever known has had about the same amount of money as me. I'm not rich. Like I don't feel like I or like someone like us, someone who grew up in a normal family making less than $100,000 a year, let
Hmm.
alone less than 50, let alone less than 40. Like I don't feel like I could have millions of dollars and be like, no, I'm not rich. Like I feel like it has to come from delusional people who were born filthy rich.
And I think let me just go back on that note where I think a lot of people also think that like, how can me, lonely person like who's just a normal person, how can I change the world in any manner? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that you should like
Yeah.
revolutionize the world we live in. I'm not saying that. But I mean, there's little things you can do to make the world a little better place. You know, if you're a
Yeah.
teacher, you could,
I'm
yeah.
gonna say honestly, I've felt that way sometimes. Like I can kind of logic my way out of it, but sometimes I feel like, man, there's this big thing I want to do. Like I have this big idea or something, and I'm like, how could I ever do that though? Like I don't have the resources to do that. I don't have the connections to do that. How can I change big things? But you don't have to change big things. You
No,
can,
small
little
changes.
changes.
Yeah,
Just make the world slightly better than how you found it.
exactly.
You don't have to change everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm asking. And like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna change the world, but at least I want to know I'm making these small changes to hopefully make the world a better place. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you should be like the next
Oh
Bill
no, yeah,
Gates
I know.
and like I mean, I think everyone should try to be the next Bill Gates because if everyone's like that, then I think the world will be awesome.
Then you'll get the new Amazon guy who's the richest man in the world.
Yeah, like I think that should be like the goal of like make that big ass change or whatever. But I think
Create
as
a
long
galactic empire.
exactly. But I think if you just kind of like, I'm gonna try and make the world a better place, make these small little changes. Those little changes add up. And like I was saying before,
Hmm.
like you might not be that person who's gonna make that big change, but you might be the person who influences that person who makes a big change. And I
Yeah,
think that
exactly. You may inspire someone to make the change that you want to see.
exactly that's what I'm saying, totally. And that's what I was kind of saying that I feel that when I go to school, there's people I meet that I'm like, oh wow, he's really intelligent and all that stuff. Like I think he's doing the things right. And there's some people I'm just
Hmm.
like, wow, you're here. You can do awesome things for the world. And like I was saying before, I think a lot of people think like, how the fuck can I change the world? Like I'm this kid who's like, just coming out of college. Just like, well, you're in a much privileged position than like almost the entire world's population. So I think you can make a big change. I think, or a
Hmm.
decent change. And I think that's what I'm coming up to. And I think that like I felt a couple people like they take a lot of things for advantage. And they don't take things like it's important and all that stuff. And that's what I'm kind of saying is that like I think people can I hope more people kind of like what work hard and try and make a good change in the world. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else from you, Ben? Anything stuck out to you or
I think
how
that's
the
a good note to leave off on.
yeah
Change the world. Follow your dreams. If you fail, uh, someone else
life
will pick you up.
exactly or pick yourself up and dust yourself off and get it back
I
up.
meant to say pick up where you left off. But yeah,
Oh
pick
yeah.
yourself up.
Yeah.
I phrased it wrong.
um. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast. It'll be coming out hopefully on a Sunday, so hopefully it comes out soon. We'll try to. I think we might. Right now, since midterms are going on, we might be going back to Wednesdays, or we might be doing Fridays, or we might have a little bit more of like a more mobile schedule.
Yeah,
Uh,
honestly, after this Monday, I should be fine, more available usually.
um. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
I used to
Bye.
wonder what it feels
Bye.
like. I know, achieved the goal. I ran the race, I won. I used to wonder what it feel like.